Warning, the following video has spoilers for the books below. If you haven't read them yet, just go do it. They're really good. Let's get on with the video. When I mention Greek, Norse, and Egyptian gods, some people may think back to Ensemble Studios' 2002 game Age of Mythology. But these three cultures also seem to have provided much of the inspiration behind the lore-loaded Legends of the First Empire series. When Sullivan released his Origin Story series, he gave readers the full mythological story behind his world, in a way not done by many fantasy writers. So today, we're going to go through how these three cultures helped shape the mythology of Elan. One of the most obvious references to Greek mythology is the river Styx. In Greek mythology, Styx is both a deity and a river that form the boundary between Earth and the underworld. In Elan, whenever a character dies, their soul immediately starts down a dark river, as Bryn describes. The River of Death. Bryn knew the stories. Those who had almost died told of a powerful dark waterway that carried them toward a bright light. For the next Greek connection, we have Zephyron. Zephyrus, sometimes known in English as just Zephyr, is the god of the west wind, a fitting connection for the leader of the Instaria, the tribe who are banished in the west. And for another Easter egg, in Greece, it was thought that Zephyrus lived in a cave in the region of Thrace. Continuing with Greek gods, we have Ares, who shares a pronunciation with a certain Galantian. Ares is the Greek god of war, often representing its violent nature and sheer brutality. This seems to fit with Ares the Galantian, who is the one who beats Gifford in Age of Swords. Another Greek character was Typhon. Typhon was a terrible and lawless giant who emitted fire and was known as the father of monsters. Typhon would eventually be defeated by Zeus, cast into the bottomless pit of Tartarus, and buried under a volcano. Typhon was then blamed as the cause for volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. This has many similarities to Sullivan's Typhons. They are destructive, they would go on to father the race of giants, and once locked away in the abyss, their continued efforts to escape are still felt on Elan in the form of earthquakes. The final Greek character we will discuss is King Midas. King Midas is known for his greed, which resulted in his downfall. He was granted a wish by Dionysus. He wished that everything he touched would turn to gold. He quickly realized his error when his food and even his daughter were turned to gold. In Elan, the great dwarven king, King Midian, faced a similar downfall because of his greed, though with him it was Alluria's fruit and the war with the Fray. We even get this apt description of King Midian's castle in Pyre. The hall of the Dwarven King was revealed in all its sumptuous splendor, from its impossibly high ceiling of gilded adornments and brooding statues of enormous size, to the cornucopia of precious metals and various gems that decorated nearly every surface. The room proclaimed that Midian didn't shy away from opulence. His favorite color seemed to be gold. In the afterlife of the Greeks, Elysium was the special place reserved only for the most worthy of mortals. This is similar to Alison in Pyre. Elan was bereft once more, but this time Aten wouldn't relent. He also refused to join with her again, for he didn't want to see the creation of more immortals. Furious and lonely, Elan plotted against her husband. While Aten slept, Elan stole 5 of his teeth and sowed them in her soil. From them, the Aesira were born: Turin, Trilos, Feral, Drome, and Mari. This quote explains how the 5 Aesira came to be, and yet still remains one of the most abstract descriptions in the entire series. This story could have its roots in the Egyptian story of Nut. Nut was married to Ra, but loved both Geb and Thoth. When Ra discovered this, he was upset and told Nut she could not have any children on any of the 360 days of the year. Nut went to Thoth for help, who gambled with the moon god to create 5 more days. With these 5 days, she had 5 children: Osiris, Horus, Set, Isis, and Nephthys, which includes 3 males, 2 females, and a set of twins, which seems oddly familiar. Another Egyptian god is Sobek. He is depicted with the head of a crocodile and is associated with pharaonic power, fertility, and military prowess. And though known as a protector, he is thought of as aggressive and unpredictable. Another fitting name for a certain Galantian. Have you heard of the Golrock? The story goes that one day the door to Allison will open, and everyone will march out of Nifril for one great final battle that will determine the fate of the world. The concept of Golrock most certainly comes from the Norse idea of Ragnarok, which is the final great battle, where several gods such as Odin, Thor, and Loki are supposed to die. Much of the Norse influence that is apparent in Sullivan's work most likely stems from the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien took a lot from Norse mythology, like with his dwarves and elves, and Sullivan has repeatedly praised Tolkien, saying he has read everything Tolkien wrote and even has a Tolkien tribute on his website. So if we go back to that Golrock quote, we see it was spoken by Andvari. Andvari is a relatively minor character in Age of Death that Tesh meets at the bottom of a pit in Nifril. But Andvari is also the name of a dwarf in Norse mythology. This dwarf lived under a waterfall and had a magical ring called Andvaranot. Loki stole his ring, which Andvari then cursed to bring misfortune to whoever possessed it. This story would go on to be one of the inspirations to Tolkien's Ring of Power. The Norse principal gods, like Odin and Thor, are called the Aesir, similar to the Aesira, like Turin and Trylos. There is a Norse being called the Makurkal, called this. The giants crafted it out of clay, and he was 9 miles high and 3 miles wide, and used the heart of a mare. This has some similarities to the golems of Elan, especially as, in the disappearance of Winter's daughter, Vilar had to use hearts as a regent to bring the golems to life. Though some readers may also note that the golems in this book seem to share even more in common with the Jewish lore of the Golem of Prague. I did want to mention some other characters and ideas that have ties back to the 3 mythologies, but that might not be particularly strong. Persephone was a well-known Greek goddess, though does not seem to have much connection to Sullivan's Persephone. In Greek mythology, Erebus was a primordial deity representing darkness, while Erebus is the first city in Elan. Vidar is the name of one of the Norse Aesir associated with vengeance. The Norse Aesir made a special chain called Dromi, which they used to try and shackle Fenrir. Freyr, or Frey, is the Norse god of peace and fertility. Many mythologies, including Greek, have the idea of sacred groves, meaning any grove of trees with special religious importance. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and definitely let me know in the comments if you know of any mythological connections I may have missed. I also want to give a shout out to Joaquin Lizicar for both bringing this idea to my attention and helping me with the video. Thanks! Thank you so much for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe and watch my other videos to learn more about the world of Elan and Riyria. Thanks!